In the weeks that followed the unleashing of the forbidden entity from the depths beneath the old barn, the once quiet plains of West Texas transformed into a landscape of nightmare and ruin, where the sky hung heavy with unnatural clouds that swirled in patterns defying the wind, casting shadows that moved independently across the withered grass, and Harlan Crow, or the thing that wore his flesh like a ill-fitting suit, roamed the land with a purpose that was no longer his own, his body now a vessel for the ancient being he had freed in a moment of desperate weakness, its voice a constant murmur in his mind promising more power, more dominion if only he would surrender completely to the chaos it craved. The townsfolk of nearby Eldridge first noticed the changes when livestock began vanishing, not just dying but disappearing entirely, leaving behind only scorched circles in the earth where they had stood. And whispers spread like wildfire through the dusty streets of strange sightings, a towering figure with horns silhouetted against the moon, wings of shadow trailing behind as it strode from horizon to horizon, but no one dared connect it to Harlan, the reclusive rancher who hadn't been seen since that fateful night until young Deputy Maria Valdez on routine patrol one dawn stumbled upon his ranch, the gate hanging open, the house dark and silent, the barn door ajar with chains scattered like discarded snakes on the ground. And curiosity, a trait as dangerous as Harlan's own, pulled her inside, where she found the trapdoor yawning open, the staircase descending into gloom, and though every instinct screamed for her to radio for backup, she descended alone, flashlight beam cutting through the thick air, revealing the chamber below, the shattered chains, the empty shelves where jars had been smashed, their contents evaporated into wisps of acrid smoke that still lingered, stinging her eyes and throat, and etched into the dirt floor in letters that seemed burned rather than written were words that chilled her blood. The pact is sealed, the unthinkable walks free. And Maria backed away, heart hammering, as she realized this was no ordinary crime scene but something profane, something that belonged in the realm of the forbidden tales her abuela had told her as a child, of demons bargained with by foolish men seeking to cheat fate. But before she could retreat, a rumble shook the ground, dust sifting from the ceiling, and in the distance a roar like thunder mixed with laughter echoed across the plains, heralding the approach of the harbinger himself. Harlan, now fully transformed, his skin mottled with scales that gleamed like obsidian, his eyes pits of eternal flame, and from his back unfurled wings that blotted out the sun as he flew low over the fields, granting twisted boons to those who caught his gaze. A child wishing for her lost dog found the animal returned, but feral and rabid, tearing into the family before it could be put down. A preacher praying for salvation saw his church filled with congregants whose faces melted like wax under the heat of his newfound fervent sermons, and Harlan reveled in the perversion of desire, the entity within him feeding on the despair that followed each granted wish, growing stronger with every soul fractured by the unthinkable consequences. Yet deep within the recesses of his mind a fragment of the old Harlan clung to existence, a whisper of regret, a plea for redemption that grew fainter with each atrocity but refused to die entirely, haunted by visions of his late wife Eliza, her gentle face twisted in horror at what he had become, calling to him from dreams that were more memory than fantasy, urging him to fight, to find a way to undo the pact before the darkness consumed not just him but the entire world. And as Harlan descended upon Eldridge, the town square emptying in panic as people fled into homes, barricading doors that would prove as flimsy as paper against his might, Maria stood her ground in the sheriff's office, radioing frantically for state troopers, National Guard, anyone who could respond, but the lines crackled with static interference from the unnatural storm brewing overhead, lightning forking in shapes that mimicked the runes once binding the creature. And when Harlan landed in the street, his cloven hooves cracking the asphalt, the air thickening with the same metallic sweet rot that had permeated the barn, he fixed his gaze upon the office window where Maria watched, transfixed by terror and something else, a pull similar to what Harlan had felt that night, an invitation to wish to bargain for something, anything in exchange for power. "Come out, deputy," his voice boomed, layered with the entity's silk over gravel timbre echoing in her skull, bypassing her ears entirely. "I know your heart's desire, the promotion denied, the respect withheld, the love lost to another. Make your wish and it shall be yours, but at the price of the unthinkable." And Maria's hand trembled on her sidearm, memories flooding of her father's death in the line of duty, the promises broken, the loneliness that gnawed at her nights. But she resisted, drawing her weapon, instead firing rounds that struck Harlan's chest only to flatten and fall harmlessly, his laughter a cacophony that shattered windows up and down the street. But in that moment of defiance something stirred within Harlan, the fragment of humanity sparked by her courage, reminding him of Eliza's strength in her final days, facing the fever without complaint. And for a fleeting second his eyes flickered from flame to the weary brown they once were, the wings faltering as he staggered back, the entity screeching in rage at the intrusion of doubt. And Maria seized the opportunity, bolting from the office toward her cruiser, intent on escape, on warning the world. But Harlan recovered the entity, reasserting control, lunging forward with inhuman speed, grasping her arm in a grip like iron brands searing through her uniform. And in that contact visions assaulted her, the full truth of the barn, the release, the merging, the spreading corruption. And she saw too the sliver of Harlan still fighting the possibility of reversal if only the pact could be broken from within. Help me. The whisper escaped Harlan's lips, barely audible beneath the entity's growl, a plea from the man trapped inside, and Maria wrenched free, her skin blistered but resolve hardened, nodding once before fleeing as he clutched his head, warring with himself, the town smoldering in his wake as he took to the skies once more, heading westward toward larger cities where more wishes awaited, more chaos to sow. But now a seed of hope had been planted. Maria racing to gather allies, those who knew the old stories, researchers of the occult, a priest exiled for delving too deep into forbidden texts, and together they pored over ancient tomes discovered in the attic of her abuela's house, texts passed down through generations, warning of entities like this one bound long ago by Harlan's great-grandfather, only to be freed by descendants, folly, and detailing a ritual to sever the bond, a ceremony requiring the vessel's willing sacrifice or the entity's forcible banishment through a mirror of its own making, using the remnants of the chains and the blood of the one who freed it. And as months passed, the devastation spread, Harlan's influence reaching beyond Texas, rivers running backward, crops growing into monstrous thorns that ensnared travelers, cities plagued by mass hysteria where wishes spoken aloud in desperation manifested in horrific ways, a man wishing for silence found the world deafened permanently, voices stolen, a woman desiring beauty woke to find her reflection alive and jealous, clawing its way out of mirrors to take her place, and the government finally acknowledged the threat, labeling it a terrorist with unknown weapons, deploying forces that fell one by one, their bullets useless, their bombs twisted into harmless confetti by the entity's whims. But Maria's group grew determined, tracking Harlan's path, piecing together the puzzle, and finally confronting him atop the ruins of what was once Dallas, the skyline twisted into spires of bone and shadow where he perched like a gargoyle.